Thank you very much. Good morning. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us be glad and rejoice in it. First, let me thank the Vice President of your class for the generous introduction. Let me acknowledge and thank Chancellor Weiss, who has led this law school with great distinction over the last several years after a distinguished career as a lawyer both in New Orleans and in New York City. And in doing so, he joined the ranks of recovering lawyers like myself, who found out that a law degree giveth much more than the opportunity to practice law. Let me also thank the Vice Chancellor Raymond Diamond, my lifelong friend. Ray Diamond, I grew up about 10 doors down from Ray Diamond, and I can attest without any fear of contradiction that Ray Diamond was the smartest kid in the neighborhood when we grew up. And I watched him matriculate through Yale University to a distinguished career. And Ray, thank you very, very much for reaching out to me. I also want to thank the faculty, the staff of the LSU Law Center for your work and your service in helping young people achieve their dreams. And especially today, I want to thank all of the family members who are here. Thank you for your contributions to the tuition. Thank you for your contributions to patience in putting up with these students as they work through the very challenge of 3 years of law school. And let me ask all of the graduates to give your family members a round of applause. They deserve it. And let me also just congratulate all of you who today will join the world's second oldest profession. And in joining the world's second oldest profession, you're joining a profession which is unique. You see, lawyers are mentioned both in the Bible and also mentioned in the Constitution. And there are not many professions mentioned in both of those two very important documents and books. So I am especially honored to be here today, as the Chancellor mentioned, because 61 years ago, my late father, Ernest Morial, sat where you sat and graduated from LSU Law Center. And in those days, it was a significant accomplishment, because my father was a boy from the 7th Ward of New Orleans who grew up on Tureau Street in a family where only one person other than he had gone beyond 8th grade. But he grew up the son of a disabled cigar maker and a seamstress mother who, while they may have never seen the inside of either a high school or college or certainly a law school, had this burning desire for their youngest son to accomplish and be someone. So I'm honored to be here today, especially to note that day 61 years ago, when this law school took a very important step towards the second half of the 21st century, when my father graduated from LSU Law School. Now, I got to tell a little story, because when my father joined the student body at LSU Law School in 1951, it made big news. It made news in the local papers in New Orleans. It made news certainly on the campus here in Baton Rouge. And in those days, 1951, all of the eating establishments and public accommodations was segregated by law. This was 1951. And my father loves to tell a story of going to an eating establishment with a few of his classmates when he first went on campus. And upon presenting himself, the person at the door said, "We do not serve Negroes at this establishment, and I think you're that new Negro student who is at LSU Law School." Now, my father had a way of playing games. He said, "I don't want you to worry, because I'm African. And the young man called back to someone and said, wait a minute, he's African, and an African, that's not a Negro, is it? The point of the story is how silly the system of segregation was, how nonsensical it was, and how it made no sense. And my father certainly was one who loved to push the envelope and challenge the conventions of those times. But I'm especially honored to be able to share with you today because of his important accomplishments 61 years ago and throughout his life. And then I've got to tell you, before I give you a very brief and short message, a story about my return from Georgetown University Law School back to New Orleans in 1983. I'd gone away to the University of Pennsylvania and then to Georgetown University and then returned to New Orleans. And I went one day to one of my favorite eating establishments. Ray, it was out on Chef Mentor Highway, a place called Poor Richard's. They had the best, greasiest food ever known to man. And as I walked up, I saw a man, two men actually, and one of them said, hey you, I know you, you're Marc Morial. He says, and I'm gonna tell you, I grew up with you, and you know what, I'm still smarter than you. He said, I heard you went to those fancy schools out in, where was it? He said, Philadelphia and Washington, D.C., and I know you're really smart. He says, but I got a question for you that I bet you can't answer. And of course I said, well, go ahead, shoot. He says, my question is a simple question. I want to know the best nation on earth. I said, the best nation on earth is the United States of America. He said, no, you're absolutely wrong. So thinking that there may be a catch here, I said, well, the next best nation on earth is Saints Nation. Wrong again. Tiger Nation. Wrong again. I say, how about that imaginary nation in your head that you're the president of? He said, no, you're wrong again. He said, the best nation on earth is a donation, and I want one from you right now. Don't give him a donation. Give LSU Law School a donation. So let me just share with you, and I'm going to be very brief this morning, some thoughts about the journey that you are about to embark on. And I want to share with you 4 principles for being a great lawyer in the 21st century. And first, the history of lawyering is that in the ancient days, in the Greek and Roman time, a person was expected to plead their own case. And then as things evolved, the person was allowed to have a friend who, I want to underscore, could not be paid to assist them or represent them in court. And then a Roman emperor came along and allowed for compensation to be paid, and the profession of lawyering was indeed born. The first principle to be a great 21st century lawyer is to keep your head clear and focused on the law. Now, the law has taught you how to think. It may have imbued you in the civilian tradition. You may be knowledgeable about civil procedure and the civil code, estate law, oil and gas law, and the Constitution. But let me tell you, you've never picked a jury. You've never advised a client for compensation. You've never been involved in a difficult and contentious negotiation. You've never helped a business organize itself or meet regulatory burdens or demands. You've never had to shape a thinking around how the Constitution applies to a vexing social and economic problem. Your head has to be continually focused on continuing to learn, improve your skills to become a true great lawyer. And the law changes and the law evolves, and the law is indeed a living document. You must keep your head focused on the law. You certainly don't want to be like the Attorney General of Louisiana back in the 1950s when Governor Earl Long remarked, "If I want to hide something from this lawyer, I'll simply put it in a law book and he'll never find it." You want to continue to be an artisan of the craft, continue to be an intellect and a scholar, continue to improve your skills along the way. You've only started on your journey to being a 21st century lawyer. You must keep your head clear and focused on continuing to be great. The second principle is to keep your heart tuned to the proper wavelength. I had an incredible professor in law school, Judge A. Leon Higginbottom, who was a member of the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. And I asked Judge Higginbottom one day, what does it take to be a great lawyer? Judge Higginbottom was about 6'6". He wore spectacles, half specs. He looked down at me, he didn't say a word, and he pointed to his heart. He said, a good lawyer, a great lawyer must have heart. What you get in life will determine your lifestyle. What you give in life will determine your life. In addition to joining a profession, which certainly will give you a good lifestyle, give you a chance to be employed for life, I also believe that you're joining a profession where you're a servant of the public. You're an officer of the court. You'll be sworn to uphold the Constitution and the ideals upon which this nation and this state were founded and continue to evolve. Great lawyers have always changed the course of history. My father's generation, many of them who joined the civil rights movement in the 50s and the 60s, wanted to use law as an instrument of social change. The idea that the law and the Constitution could enhance rights, build bridges, help people confront the many difficult challenges that this nation faced in its 20th century. And they pushed the envelope, and they pushed the judiciary, and they pushed lawmakers. And because they did it, this nation, this state, and the places where we live are better off today than they were 50 to 60 years ago. Whatever you do, carve out a bit of your time, a bit of your talent, a bit of your treasure to assist a cause that you deeply believe in, to make use of your law degree to not only achieve the lifestyle that you want, but to build a life that you and your family and your children and your children's children can be proud of. So the second principle, keep your heart tuned to the proper wavelength. The third principle is about your eyes. Keep your eyes focused on the future. Law is changing, society is changing, our nation is changing. One dramatic change in the law is the way in which technology has changed the practice of law. And I think we're on the front edge of doing this. Now, what else might come? I think we're not too far away from the day when much testimony that's presented in court will be presented by video capabilities, where confessions in interrogations conducted by law enforcement will always be taped so that there's never a trick or never a dispute over what in fact someone said, how the question was asked, or what the demeanor of the person being interrogated was. I think we began to see it with the challenges around the nation between police and communities, where many have embraced the idea of body cams and dash cams and the use of technology to improve the aspect of law which is about the search for the truth. Keeping your eye on the future also means keeping your eye on the demographic changes that are sweeping this nation. As we become a nation with no majority ethnic group, as we become a nation of people from many shores who are finding opportunity here in the United States, keeping an eye on these demographic changes and how it will challenge the law, how it will create the need for new ways and new thoughts and new thinking. Keep your eyes on the future, not simply on the past. Stare decisis and precedent are important principles that you've learned. But great lawyers are always thinking about tomorrow and thinking about how the law can be shaped to confront social and economic problems, be shaped to confront technological change that may be taking place in this world. So keep your eye on the future. The fourth principle is keep your feet planted on the ground. And I hope that you'll keep your feet planted, many of you will, right here in Louisiana. Because Louisiana needs lawyers who are going to be leaders, who lead in the bar associations, lead in the legislature, embrace the judiciary, serve in the executive branch, serve as prosecutors, serve as defense lawyers for the indigent. Louisiana needs lawyers who will be leaders. And one of the great traditions of LSU Law School is that it has produced mayors, it's produced governors, United States senators, chief justices, including the current Chief Justice of the Louisiana Supreme Court. And that's been its tradition throughout history. And we know that in Louisiana today, there is an unfortunate assault on funding for higher education. I love this state. I love jambalaya and gumbo and boudin. I love the LSU Tigers, the Saints, and the Pelicans. I love to go fishing in the Gulf. But I don't like the fact that Louisiana is 48th or 49th in too many categories. And the generation of lawyers that you represent has to commit to move Louisiana up the ranks. We cannot cut funding to higher education in this state any longer. We cannot do it. My office today is 3 blocks from the New York Stock Exchange, which is where the National Urban League is headquartered. And many people think about how they can get the greatest return on their money. So they invest in the stock market, they invest in the bond market, and they invest in private equity and hedge funds and the like. But I dare say that there's not a single better investment than investing in human capital. The rate of return for investing in people, for making sure that people have high school educations and college educations and can go on to graduate school is greater than any return on the Dow, the S&P 500, the stock market, the bond market, or private equity. Simply because you have had the opportunity to walk across the stage today and get this degree from LSU Law School, your median income will be twice as high as a person who simply went to high school. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. So a state like Louisiana, which has a great system of colleges and universities, when this state decides that it wants to have a championship football team, it spares no expense whatsoever to make sure the team wins. It has the best facilities, the best uniforms, the best paid coaches, all of the things that they need. We need to do the same thing for our lawyers, our doctors, our engineers, our teachers. We need to say that Louisiana should not be 48th, 49th, 30th or 40th, 20th or 25th when it comes to what it aspires for its system of education. It should be first. And we want leaders, no matter what their political party, no matter what their philosophical disposition is, to embrace the idea that we don't just want to be first in football, we want to be first in education. And we don't want to be a state that's at the top 3 when it comes to poverty. We want a state that's going to be at the bottom 3 when it comes to the number of our citizens, no matter what region they come from, what race they're from, in poverty today. So keep your feet firmly planted on the ground. And I hope you keep your feet firmly planted here in this great state of Louisiana. Your head, your heart, your eyes, and your feet, all of these have to be pointed in the right direction. I want you to be great lawyers. I want you to earn an excellent lifestyle, as all of us do. But I hope today you'll embrace the idea of being great leaders. Leaders that work to make the nation in which we live, the state in which we live, a better place for you and me and your families, and also for everyone. Oliver Wendell Holmes, who was a great justice of the United States Supreme Court, said many things. He said that the life of the law is not logic but experience. But he also said, I find the great thing in this world is not so much where we stand as in what direction we're moving. To reach the port of heaven, we must sail sometimes with the wind, sometimes against it. But we must sail and not drift, nor lie at anchor. LSU lawyers, graduates of 2015, sail forward, sail ahead, sail with your head, sail with your heart, sail with your eyes, sail with your feet, and sail towards excellence and sail towards leadership, and make this state a better state. God bless you. Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations.